Hi there, welcome to Yourself Yoga for Menopause. My name's Julie. I am a certified menopause yoga teacher and I help women worldwide alleviate their symptoms through yoga and other holistic practices. Now, in today's video, I'm not alone. I have a very special guest who I'll introduce in a minute, but we're looking at menopause and nutrition and giving a guide really as to what's best and what's not best. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Michelle Wells. And Michelle is let me get this right, a nutritional wellness coach. She is specialized in sports nutrition, but she also helps women navigate menopause with nutrition. So who better to help us today? Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. That's a lovely introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. So I just want to get this out there first as we start, because it seems to me, talking to so many women, that we're all looking for that magic fix when it comes to menopause. And obviously we've got these stages of menopause, and in perimenopause, we have all these symptoms which often can continue beyond. And food is or nutrition is kind of low down on the list, isn't it? Yet when you think about it, it should be obvious, because, we really, really need to nourish ourselves on the inside. So what's your view on that?
There is nothing, whether or not you're menopausal or younger, that's going to be a quick fix. When we talk about nutrition, it's lifestyle changes. And it's a long journey, and it's certainly with the research that I've done, the research that's out there, there is so much that you can do that will support you, not just, with the menopause symptoms, but with the changes that your body's experiencing. And it's a real holistic way of looking at the menopause and nutrition and other practices that you can do coupled, as you know yourself, to help just make the evolutional change, and it's a journey, a little bit more pleasant and a little bit more easier than just, the quick fix. But you do need to really, really take and embrace and listen for your body as a whole, and that's inside and out.
Yeah, I like it. So in this chat today, we're going to talk about give women a guide to what's best, what's not best, and so on. But then I have some very specific questions to ask you, which my lovely members have put forward, who are dying to know the answers. But first of all, let's start with a general overview. So, what are the best foods to eat in menopause? And I know this is super broad, super general, but just, if you had to answer in a couple of sentences, what would you say?
Think Mediterranean. Okay. Oh. Yes, so absolutely think Mediterranean food. So if you look at all the statistics and the research and everything else, you'll find that Japanese, European, Mediterranean culture have experienced and reported less symptoms and less issues than currently perhaps more we do in the Western world. So just as a very broad thing, first thing, use olive oil. Okay. And think avocados, think good fats. Starch is quite interesting because, and a lot of people, and I've got to say, will shy away. They've been brought up to say carbs is like a no-no. And actually, because of our menstrual cycles, which you will still experience even if you have hit the technical term of no period for a year, you will still be having some sort of cycle. And therefore, as women, we do need some sort of carbohydrates. And my advice and guidance is we limit and we look at that. But for Mediterranean style is, let's move away from the high starch of white, so white potato, and move towards sweet potato. That's a lot gentle on the stomach. Generally speaking, they're saying aim for 2 lots of oily fish per week. But very much we are looking at the fruits and the vegetables. And I will come on to the fruits because there are certain ones that are high in sugar.
Yeah.
So when we think about fruits and vegetables, the Mediterranean, so the peppers, the onions, the mushrooms very much is part of vitamin D, which we don't get a lot of in the UK. You're looking at aubergine, courgettes, beetroot. Beetroot's very, very good to help with sort of like the belly fat and weight loss and management. We're looking at dark, griefy leans, butternut. If you like Brussels when they're in there, they're brilliant because they're high in protein. Very much the mindset has to change to think that you need protein, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Okay, because of the changes that we're experiencing within our body, we definitely need to focus on the protein. There is certain types of cheeses. So again, hard cheese is perhaps not one that I would recommend, but certainly the feta cheese, the mozzarella, olives, the Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
And I suppose my last sort of very broad thing is really, really home in on the ultra processed. And when I talk about ultra processed and sugar content, we have to be very careful because a lot of the what people class as sort of like healthy, look at the packet, the sugar is really high. There is only a certain amount of cereal. Special K is branded as a really healthy cereal. Actually, if you dive into it, the sugar content and the processing is very, very high. Ultra processed foods, I'm trying to think, like the hams, there's certain types of hams, even to certain types of milk are highly ultra processed. Therefore, it really doesn't help your body and the changes to help break it down.
Cool. That's really interesting about the protein. It's something that I've been focusing on. So, and I think I like what you said about changing, a mindset switch. Yeah. And like we're so frightened of carbs, they became like an enemy for a while, didn't they? But there are good carbs that we can enjoy. So, which food should we avoid? Like an absolute no-no? Which are the ones
So
that you recommend?
I've kind of touched on no-nos is the ultra processed food. And if you are following a vegan diet, that's where I'd really highly say we need to look at what it is you're eating and cautious side of things. So anything like, ultra processed meat and sort of like cereals that are high in sugar. What I would be cautious about, okay, but it's not a no-no, is red meat is great, but we've got to be mindful. So we're looking, when we talk about protein, excuse me, we've got to look at more the lean protein. Doesn't mean to say you can't have red meat. It's just being a bit more mindful about when you have it. So, for example, if you are a meat eater, and you know that you're going out for a special meal and they have steak on it, perhaps, have a few weeks where you're not having that, and that could be your sort of celebratory occasion.
Yeah, I got it.
The other ones, it's quite interesting because it will depend on how your body processes it. Because broccoli and cauliflower have actually been causes of bloatiness. So you're thinking, you're absolutely ravenous, you reach for sort of like the crucious vegetables. Some of them actually cause flatulence and cause the bloatiness. So it really depends on you as an individual, how your body responds. And that's where we become more tailored. But it's just being a bit more mindful. I know for myself that I have to have quite a specific type of broccoli, not just the ones you get off your shelf in Tesco's or Sainsbury's. So I avoid it, and I've swapped it out for red cabbage because actually braised red cabbage is really quite nutritious. It's rainbow coloured, lots of nutrients, lots of antioxidants. So I do that side of things and more the Mediterranean style.
Cool. Why, going back to the protein, why do we need more at this stage of life?
So
I know we
why?
do, but why?
So why? As we come into the menopause, okay, first of all, we will decrease in muscle mass, okay? And so if we just think about your body, protein is required for your muscles, okay, to be strong so that we can stay balanced, we can do exercise and everything else. And obviously, if you are doing exercise and a menopausal athlete, then you're going to get that damage. It's equally good for energy levels. But if we think about everything that happens in our body, okay, every single process, so every neurotransmitter in your brain that tells you this is how you're feeling or this part of the body needs moving, any processes that happen in your gut, anything that you just kind of think makes you function. And the way I kind of go is they are little firing neurons that just keep on going, that makes us.
Yeah.
They all need their DNA and their processes need protein. Protein is a building block. And so as we go through these changes, it's not just, thinking about it from a physical point of view. If you're experiencing, say, brain fog, mental cloudiness, having that protein will help with that. You may be finding that the hormonal changes are giving you more an emotional or tiredness level. And again, it's the protein that will help build that.
Right. So I was gonna ask you this further on, but so when it comes to vegetarians and vegans, and obviously we can't find our protein from meats and fish, so we have to find it elsewhere. Do you believe that we can achieve that same kind of balance?
So from my research, and obviously I've written a blog post on this, you can to a certain degree, which is why I'm a great advocate when we start on this and you're feeling and you're listening to your body about energy levels, that we start looking at food diary and your lifestyle, because you can, but there's the potential, and we have to kind of think about it, that you may need to supplement.
Yeah.
But just to, we've given a sort of overview. If you look for vegans and vegetarians, oats, nuts, seeds, okay, there's a lot of protein in chia seeds, okay, and omega-3. Oats, brilliant. Lots of lentils, lots of beans. Think more of sort of like I do a 3-bean salad, or a curry or soups. So just be more of the sort of like where you would get that protein from. But equally, as I said, I think that we would look at, what supplementation. I mean, I'm a menopausal athlete, as you know. So I do have a vegan protein, because I know that everything that I'm doing, I also need to make sure that I am supplementing, and there's various other supplementations that we can go through.
Yeah. Okay, this is one which is so confusing, right? Caffeine. Caffeine is like, I read the other day that it's actually beneficial. Not that it's not beneficial, not that it's harmless, it's actually beneficial. What's your view on caffeine in menopause? Because, it sets a lot of women off with hot flashes and like it does me. So
I can give you from what I've experienced and researched, right? Caffeine does have various benefits, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just giving you the high to, and more energy. There are different, processes it helps and supports. Equally, just bear in mind that some of the food that you eat contains caffeine, dark chocolate being one of them, which they recommend dark chocolate to help with sleep and magnesium and, everything else. And I think the one thing I would do, and this is from my own experience, I am a run leader as well, and I have noticed and seen and witnessed that people that fuel with gels that are caffeine take too many and they have a caffeine overdose. So
Right.
it's a balance, it's a personal preference. Now, for me, I just go, do not talk to me until I've had my first cup of tea. Okay. Right. Has to be caffeinated, and it has to be from 8 o'clock onwards, because I'm like, I do really struggle. But then after that, I generally go, okay, what does my body feel like? What do I need? And I will not have, unless it's a special occasion, more than 2 cups of caffeine a day. I
Right.
certainly limit my time, so anything beyond 2 p.m. Okay, I don't drink caffeinated drinks. I go for decaf or the more sort of like the herbal teas, and that's just because it impacts my own wellness and my sleep patterns and everything else. So it really, caffeine is quite interesting because you go, what's actually behind that question? Because
Yeah.
it is required for some of our bodily processes. Yes, it does have some benefits, but it also has some negative benefits. And therefore, looking at yourself holistically, when we take a bite of food or when we make a choice, you go, is this serving my purpose? And when I take that sip of coffee, it should be like you've never had it before in your life. Each day you take it, you go, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. You get that euphoria of, oh man, that's just so worth it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I perhaps would approach it, but just be mindful of, what does your food diary like? What does your lifestyle look like?
Yeah.
Are you finding that you're having caffeine and then you're staying awake until 11 o'clock at night and not getting, enough sleep?
Yeah. Is there an actual link then between caffeine and hot flashes? Like,
It's varied. So the research is that yes, it can be for some people and no for others.
yeah.
Now, and the reason why I say I'm cautious about that, because everybody is different. Okay,
Yeah.
their DNA is different. You are not the same as the next person. So I can quite happily probably have caffeine and I haven't experienced hot flashes. I have experienced hot flashes in other forms, but another person could go, actually, yeah, that's really, really stimulated. And this is why it's becoming very mindful of yourself holistically and what you're experiencing and trying to work out what triggers you.
Yeah, I get it. So what about alcohol?
Now, that's an interesting subject because
Again, red wine beneficial, is it or isn't it?
so if I was to say to you, right, if you're drinking beer, high in calories, very ultra processed, okay, you're likely to find it is not going to agree with you and you put on weight.
Right.
Okay. So it's again being quite mindful about when you have alcohol. Red wine has proven to be beneficial for your heart. Okay. But if you're drinking a bottle of red wine a night, okay, to yourself, I'll probably go, and that's not going to do too well for your liver and kidneys.
Yeah.
So when it comes to alcohol, it really depends on your lifestyle. And again, what purpose is it serving? So certainly from me, I started off with a weight loss experience in my 20s. I've obviously gone into menopause. And I generally, because of all the activities I do, I haven't got time to even think about drinking Monday to Thursday, particularly unless it's a special occasion or when I'm on holiday. And then I come to sort of like go, okay, what's going to serve me? So yeah, I do occasionally have a glass of white wine when I'm preparing dinner on a weekend and then share a bottle with my husband.
Yeah.
Or a gin and tonic. But I don't go to the point of, it's every night and it's really heavy. So it's again, like with everything in life, is everything in moderation.
Yeah.
And again, some people have found that through the menopause, they have a glass of wine and it just doesn't do anything for them because of their hormonal changes.
Yeah.
If we talk about wine, if you fancy a glass of wine and it's a red one, go ahead, because
Go for it. So what about, this is, again, common knowledge, but can you kind of nail it down for us why women in the East suffer less? Because it's clearly down to nutrition, isn't it? Down to diet. They have less symptoms.
It is mainly because of diet, but also it's very much their lifestyle as well.
Right.
So when we talk about why do they experience less, their nutrition is very much Mediterranean, fresh. It's not ultra processed. Lots of good oils, lots of good fats, and it's very holistic and rainbow. Everything we've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, if you look and you really home in, they have a lot more respect for their body and for the changes, and they will go for the mindfulness practices. So they do Tai Chi, they do yoga, they will center in. They also find their true purpose. And so they will become part of a community, maybe. Okay. Yeah. And community plays a big part in their well-being. And they also will do something that keeps their brain active. I read one lady, she was 96, and she still to this day would put one brush, decorating brush hair individually to build a brush. And she would get up, she would do exercise, she would eat everything, go to the community, be part of that community, sharing some experiences, and then she would do this. And that is what she did, and she is still living. Okay, she's well into her hundreds.
Yeah, so good. I know that a menopausal woman in Japan is revered for their knowledge, for their wisdom. And not quite the caricature that's painted here sometimes, like old and stupid or forgetful. So, yeah, it's like a completely different approach. Okay, another one, intermittent fasting. What's your views on intermittent fasting in menopause?
It's one thing that I advocate, okay? And it's really easy to do. So intermittent fasting has many different benefits, but it depends on your level, okay? The reason why I advocate it is, one, it reduces the belly fat.
Yep.
Two, it has like other benefits to it, and it's really easy to do. And I'm going to walk you through an example, because it includes your sleep time. At a minimum, it's 12 hours. 12 hours you need from your last mouthful. You can drink water, your last mouthful, till your next, meal or cup of coffee or what have you, apart from one drink.
Right.
So, for example, you're having your family meal, or you're having your meal yourself, and say you finish around 7:30 in the evening. Okay, and you go, right, that's it, that's fine. So you then start your mindfulness practice, plus your sleep routine, you wind down. So you finished at 7:30, you go to bed, okay, sleep for 8 hours. And you may get up, I get up a ridiculous hour, so let's take an average. You get up about 6-ish.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would then say is you need to start cleansing your body, and you either do that in two ways. One is just drink some water, or I'm a great advocate of doing hot lemon with ginger and a bit of honey. Or if you want to go to extremes to help with your gut health, it's apple cider vinegar.
Right.
Then, as part of one thing that I would probably recommend, it really depends if you're a morning night person, is start doing some sort of movement. Even if it is just standing outside your back door, okay, walk around the garden, or you're doing a yoga practice, or just sort of some sort of movement to start getting the energy flowing. For me, I get up, I stretch, I then go and train. So I do some form of exercise. That can be anything from 20 minutes to an hour.
Yep.
I then go, I need to get ready. Okay, so you get ready. And by the time you've done that, and in my case, I've got 2 teenage kids, and I've gone, get out of bed, you should have emptied the dishwasher by now, my 12 hours is up.
Yeah.
So you go, great. And that way it helps just on a number of levels. A, with weight management, B, with the belly fat, C, with other genetic processes and changes that can happen.
When is it not healthy though? Because I know, like in my case, I tried it for a couple of years and I found I was more tired. And I found that I was doing a longer fast, but I was then restricted on meals because I kind of skipped breakfast. So
And
the opportunity to get stuff in, I just had a lunch and a dinner, and I was having to really think it through, like, what can I get into those 2 meals? And I noticed my energy levels would really dip.
And that's where I'm not an advocate of it, because actually, if you work it out and this is where we would look at your specific day.
Yeah.
Because despite what anything, and a latest podcast of mine was breakfast is important, most important meal of the day. The reason breakfast is the most important meal of the day is because it needs that energy and the kickstart to start all your processes, or you will just burn out and you will tire.
Yeah.
So you need to, if you think nothing else, you go, okay, I've done sort of like my 12 hours, between 10 and 12 hours, because I've slept and I've done this. But you need breakfast because you need to kickstart your body.
Yeah.
And it has to be that wholesome breakfast. So,
so it's the length of the fast, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's where you go, what can work with you? And you go, well, actually, if you include your sleep time, that's 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of it is manageable. Never, ever skip a meal.
Yeah.
I'm very much
like that. Never, ever skip a meal.
No. And that's what people, I think, certainly the diet culture is you've got to starve yourself. Well, you can starve yourself, you get the results quicker. But then as soon as you want to enjoy life again,
it all goes back.
Right? It goes to pot. And so actually, what can we do now that, you know, is changes? And some of my clients at the moment are highly dependent on sugar. And it is shocking. And they're like, oh, yeah, but if I have like lots of sugary stuff, then I won't eat. That's not going to help you.
No.
You know, it's not going to help you because it doesn't store. So what we're trying to do is give you the energy level. And there is some sweet stuff that we can put in to actually go, you don't have that real fast craving hit. And what we're doing is, again, looking at your day. So never skip a meal, have the snacks, okay? But it depends on the level. So, for example, if you're not a morning person and you're more an evening person where you want to go out and do some exercise or meet up, what we would do is we would increase what you eat in protein and energy levels more at the start of your day. And then your body would have a lighter meal in the evening to then be able to settle.
Yeah.
If you might, like myself, that you train on an empty stomach, then, and it's been proven time and time again, if you train and do exercise, whether or not it's walking, swimming, cycle on a fasted stomach, you burn more calories in the morning and you'll find more beneficial for weight loss.
Right. So hang on. So if you do your workout on an empty stomach, a stomach that's fasted overnight, you burn more. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then for me, though, I go, oh my gosh, you know, I then do need my breakfast.
Yeah.
So it just depends on your lifestyle and what you're doing. But there are benefits to it. But for the energy levels, we would be looking at, well, what's your last meal? So certainly most of mine is high protein and a bit of carbs. Okay. And then what time are you starting? And no, never skip a meal.
Yeah. Such good advice. Okay, so I have some quick questions from our members, and I just want to say, if anyone else has a question for Michelle, leave us a comment, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and Michelle will answer and get back to you. But these are the questions from our members. And number one, so in yoga, we look at Ayurveda as well, which is the sister science to yoga, and the three doshas. And quite a lot of menopausal ladies are a vata dosha, which means they're more prone to anxiety. They've got a really high metabolic rate. They're constantly, it's as if they're burning everything off. And what they're saying is that they constantly need snacks with them. So what kind of, should they focus on a certain food for the meal to avoid the snacking in between? Or, if they're doing everything they can with the food, like what kind of snacks, what's good to consider?
So first of all, I would look at what they're eating, okay, at their meal times and see what support we can do there. But I think, generally speaking, I'm an advocate of snacks, but you're looking like apples with a bit of almond butter or peanut butter, boiled eggs, high in protein, energy, hummus with some veggie sticks, Greek yogurt with fruits, nuts and seeds. Anything like that that's quick, easy to do, cheese and crackers, banana.
What about these protein bars that you see everywhere? I was at the airport a few weeks back, and I dashed into Boots or Smith's to grab a snack. And I thought, I'll have a look for a protein bar, because it was all, or I could just see sandwiches, right? But I was like bombarded with this huge range. It's massive, isn't it? And I was looking for something like an Ella snack, Ella balls, energy balls, her range of bars and so on. And they didn't have them, but they had this huge range. And I was like, that's covered in chocolate. That's got this. That's got that. They're not healthy, surely.
My personal opinion, and everybody's different, this is where the diet culture, and the health industry make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because
actually,
and I've become a bit more savvy with that because my son has pyruvate disorder, and I've really had to look at changing his diet and very much his sugar intake. For those that don't know, pyruvate, basically he wheezes out zinc, so half his neurotransmitters don't function the way that a normal person. And sugar is really, really a key thing. So actually, if you look at those bars, they're not probably as healthy, and actually you'd be better off to go and get a sandwich.
Yeah, good advice. Okay, next one, is milk bad for inflammation?
That was an interesting one.
Yeah,
because I was kind of thinking about this when you mentioned it, and inflammation's an irritant. Okay, so something is not agreeing with your body.
Right.
So I would be very curious to go, okay, what's been the lead up to this?
Right.
Beforehand. Because again, your processes and your body and your gut health's changing. Now, dairy tends to have a smoothing effect. Right. And I remember as a child, I had a stomach upset. I went to 6 different doctors. The last one said flat Coke and ice cream. Cured me within a couple of days. But it's when we're looking at milk, okay, or anything dairy, it's the saturated fat, okay, that's in that product that could be the cause of the irritant. And the reason we'll talk about milk, is actually if you look at cow's milk, it is highly ultra processed. It is very much processed. It's not natural.
Right.
And that then goes back to what we said at the beginning, is avoid highly ultra processed food. Now, certainly for my household, we're on almond milk. It is less processed. Soya milk is again processed. So it depends on your gut and how does it do things. And if we're talking about supplements, whey protein is not one that I would recommend because it's really harsh on your digestion. So you would have to look at different things like that. So when we're talking about milk, it's very much what's the saturated fat in that? How's it being processed? Is it ultra processed? And then but more importantly, I would be more interested in finding out what's caused the irritation in the first place.
Right. So it sounds like maybe it's an individual's intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Menopause belly fat and bloating. Do they go together? I'm lumping them together. Do they?
No.
No.
Right.
Okay. Let's do the belly fat.
So belly fat is, unfortunately, because of us women, we're childbearing. Okay, you have no way of escaping it. We will always have some sort of belly fat. It does very much depend on your shape, your size, your body. So first of all, this is your temple. So we've got to all start loving what we've got. Okay, we can't change it. Not really. We can only work with it. So belly fat is quite interesting because, again, good diet absolutely happens with helps with belly fat. Certain types of food help with belly fat. Intermittent fasting helps with belly fat. So there's lots of stuff about belly fat. Again, gut health helps with belly fat. When we talk about bloatiness, that is different, because that is your ability of your intestines, okay, to actually move things through.
Yeah.
Whether or not, as we've mentioned, broccoli or cauliflower, certain vegetables, certain foods will cause you to be fluctuant. Some people eat Brussels and they, again, pass a lot of wind. So really, really, we would be homing in on what are you eating, when, and plus also what triggers the bloatiness.
Yeah.
Because it can be stress, and
Yeah.
your cortisol levels in menopause increases. So your stress levels increases, and that can have an impact on both of those.
Right. Yeah, I do know about the cortisol affecting belly fat, and it's a shame that we don't. A lot of people don't know that, and they're just searching. They're just cutting out foods, to get rid of this belly fat, which is completely the wrong thing to do. Gut health and mood.
Right. So this is quite interesting because, yes, gut health, okay, does change. So when I say it does change, the way there is a link between obviously your gut health and your mood. Now, we all have bacteria in our gut, okay? And with the decline in estrogen, which happens in menopause, and testosterone, okay, it impacts how we absorb the food within our gut, okay? Now, we need a lot of good bacteria in order to maintain our bodily functions, and the main one being is the gut, brain, and mental health.
Yeah.
So we need to keep that cleansed. We need to keep your bowels moving, okay? But there will be a change in your gut health,
Right.
because of the decline in hormones. We all need hormones for all of our bodily processes, and so there will be changes. Just what do you need to do about gut health, or sort of like, and the mood is making sure there's fiber to keep your bowels moving. You need to help the flow, so exercise, hydration, eat probiotic foods and fermented foods, because it will support the gut and the liver improving, which is hormone balance, which then helps with the sleep. It helps with mood and absorption. The protein, again, needs to come into it because it will help with the gut neurotransmitters, and it's the good fats. So everything we've been talking about, okay, it just needs to be tweaked with your gut, because your gut biome will change.
So you mentioned the probiotics, I think. What's the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic? So confusing.
So confusing. The long and short of it is you need a bit of both, okay?
Okay.
So they do different processes, and that's the way you could read a lot of research, probiotics, prebiotics, but there are certain ones that, and I wouldn't want to go into it onto this call, that you would need. So when we talk about probiotics and prebiotics, it really depends, because a lot of people think that it's a quick fix by taking a supplement. And that depends on the quality, the absorption, the nature of it. I am more, after doing the research with certainly the different cultures, are very much into kefir or looking at more fermented foods that go in. Kimachi is another one. There is certain foods that are going to help your gut. And I actually go, let's look at yourself holistically. Let's look at what you can and what you can't eat. And let's just start getting this prebiotic foods in. I mean, Greek yogurt is one that I do advocate a lot of. It's brilliant because it really helps with that and cleansing.
So is kefir and kimchi, I think it is are they prebiotics?
They're prebiotics, yeah.
And they're the fermented things, yeah. I have a kefir yogurt that I stir into my Greek yogurt because I really can't bear it, and I have to disguise the taste because it's so sour and bitter.
It's interesting because when we talk about that, and a lot of people in menopause will shy away from spices, but if you put turmeric in it, okay, or you think about perhaps a bit of honey, because honey is a natural source, or maple syrup. Okay, they're like good defenses for you. I'm certainly an advocate of honey because it helps build your immune system. Put a bit of chia seeds in it. Really think about other stuff, or some fruit. And we touched on it briefly, but there are certain fruits that are really good for menopause, which you're looking at your bananas, your pears, your grapes, your melon. Okay, dried fruit I would be cautious of, but dried apricots and dates are the two that I would do. Apples, but berries. You've got blueberries for your antioxidant, which is anti-aging. You've got your raspberries, your strawberries, and those are the ones that I really come back and hone in on because they're the ones that you could add in to add a bit of flavour. Okay, it will help balance the energy levels, and it will then help your gut health.
Okay, cool. So what's a probiotic then? So prebiotics are like the fermented stuff. Am I right?
Yes, probiotics is something that you wouldn't really get with the food. It's more of the probiotics and the prebiotics. It's all about sort of like the other I was trying to think of the word, nutrients. So you would get your copper, your magnesium from different, the phenols. So certainly from the fruits, the phenols. So you take all of that together. So I really would, perhaps for the purpose of your listeners and your customers, is try and extract away from what's a prebiotic and a probiotic and look at yourself holistically.
Okay.
And then we would go, right, what's the gut health, what works, what doesn't, and we would become very, very specific. And this goes back to what are you eating, what triggers you, what doesn't, what's your energy like, what's your mood like. And then if you've got a lot of diarrhea, then that's showing to me that your gut health, and it could be a prebiotic or a probiotic, is imbalanced, or it could be something else. If you're feeling a lot of flatulence and bloatedness, again, something's imbalanced, but you would have to go further into it. Again, gut health is not a quick fix.
No.
It's very individual to people.
But so important. I've read a few books on the gut health and the connection with the brain, and it's incredible, it really is. Michelle, we've come to an end. We could talk for ages, couldn't we? Because there's so many more things to ask. I think we might have to do a follow-up. So don't forget, if you have a question, please drop us a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and then you'll be notified of our new videos. We've got lots more in the pipeline. And if you want to join us in our Menopause Transformation Challenge, starts March the 18th. I'm going to drop a link below. Check it out. It includes nutrition, obviously yoga, meditation, journaling, you name it. And in 6 weeks, we're looking for transformation. Michelle, thank you so much, and namaste. See you soon. Thank you.